Izzy Gutierrez finds him funnier than I do. What do you like on the show today, Izzy?
Feeling really young today, Dan, because that Monday Night Football game felt like it was 2009.
Dale, papi.
Do you buy that the Rose Bowl will be the last time we see Urban Meyer coach?
I think it's pretty impossible to predict what's going to happen here, given that we don't know the exact nature of his health issues. We don't know how trying this last season was for him in terms of weariness. We do know that he has left football before. We do know that he wanted to spend time with his family and concentrate on his health, and that coaching football is unhealthy for him in a way that makes him go to his knees sometimes on the sidelines. I don't know whether he just wants out of Ohio State with a good ending, the best ending he could have had under the circumstances after scandal. I don't think we'll see Urban Meyer again coaching football. I think he's going to leave, and this time it's going to be for good.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't believe in these conspiracy theories that it's a well-timed situation where he can go coach Aaron Rodgers with the Green Bay Packers or he can go coach Baker Mayfield with the Cleveland Browns. That just seems to be pretty shocking if you consider the idea that, A, what is the NFL appeal for Urban Meyer, especially with a team like the Packers? If you were going to tell me that the Panthers' job and Cam Newton was going to come open, I'd be somewhat intrigued by that marriage, but not so much with Aaron Rodgers and Urban Meyer. And then you consider, well, okay, Cleveland, really? That's going to be the move? You're not even going to leave the state as you slink away and take another job and leave that organization behind you? No. There's no way he goes to the NFL. This doesn't seem like a guy who's ready to move on and work some more right now, but he's only 54, so give it a few years, maybe he'll be back.
One of the things about this job, and many will tell you that is unhealthy, and it's an unhealthy addiction. The people who leave tend to come back. He's already done it, but the ones who do leave and leave for good, whether it's Dungy, Jimmy Johnson, Bill Cowher, are the guys who have won. This guy won the national championship with his third-string quarterback. There ain't nothing left for him to prove on that level.
You know who is very happy today?
Who's that?
Jim Harbaugh.
Oh, that's right. Yes, thank you. Yes, please, go. Take those 60-point games somewhere else, please.
Did the Eagles convince you last night that they could still make some noise in the playoffs?
I am not convinced about anything as it regards the Eagles. Their story is as confusing as any in the league and tells you how hard it is to be the Patriots when teams like the Jags and the Falcons and this one cannot sustain it. But they still have only a 17% chance to make the playoffs, and they didn't show you much of anything against Mark Sanchez and broken-legged Colt McCoy last night that would suggest they're going to get there.
Yeah, here's how you convinced me you're going to make some noise after losing by 41 to the Saints. You beat the Giants, whose best QB is a WR, and you beat the Redskins, whose best QB is probably still in college right now because Mark Sanchez is their backup. Look, the Eagles have been mediocre all season long, and you start to look at it and you say, man, their offensive talent just isn't that good. They don't get receivers that get separation. They've been hurt in the backfield. They're just not looking very good. Carson Wentz's best option is Zach Ertz, and they told you about that a lot last night. So it just goes to show you that this team is not exactly the team it was last year. The defense can still be dominant up front. The secondary doesn't look like it can be.
Oh, did you see my guy Mark Sanchez last night? Boy, the first play that he pulled,
yeah,
boy, that was Adrian Patrick right down the middle. There he goes.
Look at
all right, look at that. All right, look at that, all the way in.
Your boy did all the work there, Poppy.
Adrian Peterson, that's a 90-yard run. He finished with fewer than 100 rushing yards.
You see how he handed off that ball to Adrian Peterson?
Okay, my father's still going to stick with that joke. He's going to stick there. That was key,
but
yes.
There was another play that I like much better, you know,
great.
because that's the one I enjoy the most. The butt fumble is back. There we go.
Oh,
there we go. There you can see that, okay? That's Mark. That's the signature move.
Okay, very good.
But we're still sure that Tua will win the Heisman.
Every year at about this time, I remind outraged sports fans that this man has a Heisman vote. And he reminds you that he will not be voting for anyone Tricky Nicky related because he's biased that way. And I do think what you just saw is that this kid lost the Heisman Trophy by virtue of this. He was down 28-14, and then he got hurt, and then Jalen Hurts came and rescued him. And when you look at the numbers of both him and Murray's are just as good, and he wasn't bailed out in the last game by his backup quarterback.
I mean, if you want to look at the numbers, if you want to convince yourself that Kyler Murray should win the Heisman, feel free, and you'll probably have some statistical evidence to back you up. but you'd be wrong. And Heisman voters make mistakes all the time. We've seen years, Peyton Manning losing a couple of years. We've seen years where they made mistake when you look back. And when you look back at this year, will you remember it for Kyler Murray putting up Big 12 quarterback numbers? And mind you, not being the only quarterback to put up Big 12 quarterback numbers this year. Will Greer has been great this year. Or will you remember it because Tua elevated Alabama to an elite level that even Nick Saban hasn't even known since he's been here? That's what you're going to remember. If you vote for Kyler Murray, you're crossing your fingers that he beats Alabama in 3 weeks, therefore justifying your vote. Otherwise, it's Tua's, and it should be.
Well, let me see. I'm going down the list of Heisman voters here. Yeah, I voted. How about you, Daniel?
Yeah, I voted.
You made it on
Deadline
time?
was yesterday, yeah.
On time. You
Yes, I got it in.
Wire, right?
I got it in, yeah.
Yeah.
But,
How about you, Ethan?
oh,
You got a vote? Huh?
Yeah.
You didn't get a vote?
No, he's going to vote. He's been a journalist in Miami for about 20 years. My father just shows up at Heat games and eats popcorn.
Is Kobe just being a crazy old man when he says that the Lakers fan will soon be laughing at Warriors fan?
It is hard from today to see anyone laughing at the Warriors anytime soon, but if Kevin Durant leaves, and it means something that Anthony Davis has signed with the shadow agency of LeBron James as his representation, then if LeBron and Anthony Davis get together, you're talking about something that could contend against anybody, but especially a Golden State team without Kevin Durant.
If that's what Kobe means, that they'll be laughing at Warriors fans because they've stacked their team with superstars around LeBron, then fine, maybe he's not being a crazy old man. But if he's talking about the way this team is playing, if he's talking about the way they're bringing up these young players, I'm telling you, this comes down to the development of Brandon Ingram this season and beyond. Unless you're going to bring a couple of superstars with him, because Brandon Ingram, you know, I've had a colleague tell me he seems like he can score 16 or 17 in his sleep, and here we are drooling over Jason Tatum. Well, yeah, it seems like Brandon Ingram's been asleep for 2 years, and because that's all he's doing, and he doesn't seem to fit very well next to LeBron James. So if you're going to build a super team that's going to make Warriors fans cry, it can't really start with what they've already got outside of LeBron James, of course.
Is he so right about that? Brandon Ingram looks sleepier than most players in the league. Just look at him. His whole play, he just looks like he needs a nap.
Wake up.
Do you think that Kobe knows that when LeBron gets to the final, he loses?
Probably
Following LeBron closely, or
He hasn't been following. No.
Yeah,
Kobe, check in every once in a while.
Right. I mean, he got a hell of a losing record, for all the numbers he got. He got lucky he won that one in Cleveland. That was the big shot that Kerry Irving made. Coming up next on my son's TV show, Alex Honnold. What do you do when you are climbing and all of a sudden you have to go to the bathroom?
Okay.
Oh, you just go to the bathroom.
My son's TV show is brought to you by Miller Lite. Great taste and only 96 calories.
Can you articulate to people what that is, what you're talking about there?
Yeah, so that's a specific part of the route called the monster off-width. Off-width meaning off the normal width. So normally when you climb a crack, you put your hand in it or you put your fist in it. But an off-width means that it's bigger than your fist, but smaller than your whole body. So you can't just get inside it and climb it the way you would up a chimney or something. So basically it means that you have to shove parts of your body in and just push super hard, and it's all counter pressure between different parts of your body. I think in the film I describe it as like a Pilates class on steroids, like some kind of hellish thing where you have to hold these positions, but it's like grinding skin off your body. It's all it's pretty grueling. It's a very tiring style of climbing.
Well, I was going to ask you, though, what hurts the most? Like, if you were to explain to an audience member who doesn't understand, like, what the endurance this requires is, what hurts the most for how long?
Well, so for that particular, so the monster off-width is 200 feet of climbing, which is a tiny fraction of the 3,000-foot route. But on that section of climbing, I mean, honestly, for me, it always hurts my joints the most. Like, it hurts my bones because you're pushing your bones so hard against the side of the crack. But I think that if you have less technique and you're just thrashing your way up it, it winds up taking a bunch of skin off too. It basically like sandpapers all the skin off your body. But, I'd practiced enough that I felt comfortable with that kind of thing.
Can you explain to the uninitiated why it's so much different to climb when you're all by yourself as opposed to simply having a camera around or a friend around? What changes?
Well, having a camera guy around actually doesn't necessarily change the experience that much. I mean, basically climbing by yourself is climbing by yourself. It's the big difference is the experience between climbing free solo by yourself without a rope versus climbing with a partner and a rope. And so having a camera guy nearby can change the experience, potentially could change the experience because there's somebody near you with a rope. But ultimately, you're still so focused on what you're doing that it doesn't really matter who's there, who's watching. It's like like when I free soloed El Cap, it didn't really matter who else was around, because had I slipped or had I fallen anywhere, there's nothing they could have done. I just would have fallen.
You say that so matter-of-factly. Your friends die doing this. Is there something about you that doesn't measure consequences, or is the thrill and the mastery of the craft something that takes the consequences into account and says, no, this is just a higher way of living?
Well, I don't know about higher way of living, but no, I definitely take the consequences into account. I mean, the point of the preparation is to get to reach a level where it doesn't feel risky anymore, where it doesn't feel, where I'm confident that I will not fall off. I mean, if I thought that I was going to fall off, I definitely wouldn't go up there. I mean, it's not about the thrill. It's not about rolling the dice and seeing what happens. It's about putting in the time and the effort to make sure that I can do it safely and comfortably.
What would you describe as the most harrowing experience that you've had?
Oh, the most harrowing experience I've had. I mean, honestly, I don't really know. I mean, I've had a lot of near misses while free soloing, with like breaking holds off, or having like big rocks fall off or almost hit me. But the thing is, those kinds of things happen so quickly and they're over so quickly that you're not really that afraid of them, because by the time you realize what happened, it's already done. So you can just like take a deep breath, compose yourself, and then sort of keep going. But I think some of my scariest experiences in climbing have been like much longer, slower, more drawn out things, like crossing a glacier where you're worried that you're going to fall into a crevasse for hours, and you're like keep punching along hoping that you don't fall into a crevasse. I find that pretty scary.
Have you ever thought this is it? Have you ever been in one of those situations where you're like, or you can't think that way because survival doesn't work like that?
No, I've had a couple of things like that. I mean, so I slipped snowshoeing once when I was much younger and basically slid down this mountain, and I was sure that I was about to die. I was basically sliding out of control into some rocks, and eventually I hit the rocks and I came to, and I was all messed up and totally destroyed, but alive. But yeah, I definitely remember thinking that like, oh, I'm gonna die for sure. But I don't know.
Your thoughts on death tend to end that way. You just sort of, at the end of them, like whenever it is that it seems like anyone gets close to the worst case scenarios and what it is that you're doing. And I understand what you're saying about you don't think of it as a risk, but the people who love you think of it as a risk, do they not?
Yeah, for sure. There's something like a snowshoeing accident. I mean, that's the risk that, many of us take in our lives. It's like, oh, well, I didn't. And some of my closest calls have been sort of in normal life. Like I've had 2 experiences in a car where I felt like I was for sure going to wreck or die. Like in heavy fog in the Central Valley in California, I like blew through a stop sign without ever seeing it. Basically, I locked up my brakes and just like slid through an intersection. Thankfully, it didn't hit anybody. It was totally fine. But it was very, very scary. But some of my scariest life experiences have not been on the wall.
That's what you're telling people, right? You're telling people, no, where I go, it's safer. I have expertise here, and I've got a pretty good control of my surroundings, as opposed to when I'm going through a stoplight in the fog.
No, honestly, I mean, that's true. I mean, if, I've been climbing for over 20 years, maybe 5 days a week. So it's like I put more hours in climbing than most people spend, say, driving. And so if you think of how comfortable most people feel in their car, it's like, well, that's how comfortable I feel going climbing. It's like you put enough time into something and it feels good.
The first few days in a house after living in a van for so long, were they weird? Did you want to go back to the van?
Actually, when I closed on my house, I actually just lived in my van on the driveway for quite a while because the house was totally unfurnished, and my girlfriend was actually abroad at the time, and so my van is super comfortable and I know exactly how to do everything. But the house, I basically would just go into the house and sit on the staircase to use the Wi-Fi, and that was it. I had an empty house with a Wi-Fi router, and that was it. But at least I knew that nobody was going to kick me off the driveway because I was like, this is my driveway.
Have you had any issues with sort of domestication, because you're wild, you're free, you're somebody who, the title of the film is Free Solo. It's have you had any issues with domestication?
No, actually, I've enjoyed it, and my girlfriend Sonny's done a remarkable job of making the home feel homey, and so I mean, we've still been traveling in the van maybe half the year, and then right now traveling with the film, supporting the film for a couple months. So I'm definitely traveling a lot still. But now when I go home, it feels amazing. I love being at home. Just because the climbing around Las Vegas where I live is honestly the best 4-season climbing in the country. So every time I go home, there's always something fun to do outdoors, and it's a great resource to have.
What would you say is the worst part of living in the van?
Oh, the worst part of living in the van is probably just the lack of showers or bathrooms, I guess. Yeah. I mean, otherwise, I actually totally love it. I mean, I love living in the van. And it's just as big as any hotel room in New York, It's pretty nice. Yeah, it's a pretty nice setup.
Look how happy he is, Poppy. Look, this is the big smile. It's always the big smile for you. You come on the screen, it doesn't matter. You come on the screen, you got a big smile, he's got a big smile. What's the question you got for him?
Yes, Alex. I mean, what do you do when you are climbing and all of a sudden you have to go to the bathroom?
Okay.
Oh, you just go to the bathroom. No, that's what you do.
That's it?
Yeah, there are lots of little ledges. You just stop, you pee, it's no problem. If
No
you,
problem?
If you have to do something more serious, then you try to pack it out and take it with you because you can't just like leave poop all over ledges because there's so many climbers in
What a
Yosemite.
great way to end this interview. Yes. Thank you, sir. Yes, matter of fact, it's life. Thank you for being on with us. We appreciate it, Alex.
Yeah,
Gracias, Alex.
Yeah.
Gracias.
De nada. Yeah, nice
De
chatting,
nada.
guys. Thank you. Yeah, cheers.
This broadcast from the Clevelander Hotel on beautiful South Beach, Miami. Time to play the game that prefers to be Little Spoon. Do you question?
I feel like we've done that one before. You give us topics and events, we question them. The joke.
Do you know how large a woman would have to be for me to be the small spoon?
Do you question if Jeffrey Lurie has ever played cornhole before?
Bobby, do you know who Jeffrey Lurie is?
The guy that used to run the Marlins, huh?
Jeffrey Lurie, it's pretty close, but this is the Eagles owner. Do you know what cornhole is? You know what? I'm scared to ask that question. Let's just go to the video.
Oh, no.
Oh,
no. Wow.
He hit it, but he's going overhand, and you're supposed to sort of flip it underhand, but...
I mean, forget sports. Does he understand physics? Like, it's just...
You love it when the owner comes down from the Imperial skybox to be a man of the people, and then all of a sudden he's throwing in overhand. They're looking at him and they're like, yeah, you don't know how to do this very common thing, you elitist.
You never know. He's going to start a trend. I want to be that rich. I'm going to throw the cornhole thing that way.
You know who wouldn't be good at that game?
Who's that?
Markel Fox.
That's right. That's right. He wouldn't be great at that game. No, there'd be a hitch in the throw.
That's right. Do you question which keeper made the worst play?
All right, so as Izzy cleans the snot off his face from something he was laughing about during the break, we have learned that we are really good at shaming keepers. And so people keep sending us stuff. We go out now to Tanzania, and this is one of 3 videos from yesterday after we already showed you terrible keepers a day ago. Thank you, Lucio, for all your help there. Let's check in here with this video.
I can't see anything, Dad.
I know, you've got snot in your eyes. Oh, no, keeper. Oh, that's a bad feeling when you slip like that and the guy does that in your face. Yes, that is terrible in Tanzania. Oh, that hurts. That's just such a bad feeling. And then that last one frozen moment where he's like, I'm not even going to try. Let's see another one. This is England. Or is this Argentina? It's England. Oh!
Bad.
Oh,
We really
keeper.
search for these, don't we?
Oh, look at the horror on his face. Oh, no, what have I done?
I thought keepers were supposed to be athletic. He looked about as fast as Tom Brady right there.
And let's check in here with Argentina. Which is the worst of these? Oh,
man.
Wait a minute. Are you bleeping kidding me? Wait a minute. How did this get buried in the show? We're getting distracted by keepers, and no one told me there was going to be a dog making an enormous save.
Wow.
That's the way they played in South America, buddy. That's it, you know? Time to play the game that thinks that the best sorbet is worse than the best ice cream. See? Oh, no.
He just pronounced sorbet by hitting the hard T at the end. You tell us what to watch on TV tonight. We'll tell you if we're intrigued.
On NBA League Pass, Spurs and Jazz.
You want some defense? Defense in your face. No, thank you. I will not take defense during a regular season game. But I do want to see DeMar DeRozan getting rocked to sleep here by James Harden.
Harden at his first. This time, Capella not expecting it.
This, Dan, is defense not in your face. This is look away.
That is a steal, my friends. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
King of the fake out right there, James Harden.
I think that is the most defense he's ever played and about the most effort he's ever applied to defense. Izzy, are you intrigued?
Yes, very much. I continuously ask myself the question, when are we going to question the Utah Jazz?
Continuously?
Ask myself the same question.
Why would you ask yourself that question
I don't know.
continuously?
It's my
What a
life is really
hellish
boring,
existence
man.
to just ask yourself that over and over again. Poppy, are you intrigued? Not really. That's about Utah Jazz basketball since Stockton and Malone left. Right there. One and a half hearted. Can't even be bothered to exert the energy to hold up the card. Just all this game gets is a this.
That's all the time we have for today. Thank you for watching.
We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Check out the radio show, 10 to 1 Eastern. Are we bothering you? ESPN Radio.
Hey, I got something to show you.
Oh, dear God!